All right, so today we're going to be going over some YCS Bologna topping deck lists. I'm really excited to get into this. We have a lot of different decks to cover, so make sure to like the video if you enjoy it and share your thoughts in the comments about which deck you think is the best in today's meta. And also let me know what you think of Runic Bistio taking it all at YCS Bologna. So getting started with the first deck, we're going to start with Labyrinth. We're also going to end with Labyrinth. We have a couple different versions actually. So for this first one, I love this one. I am testing a very, very similar one, also like pretty much the same from what Ryan Yu and Gabriel Natz and the other people were building. So I think this is what Labyrinth is supposed to look like right now. It just looks so clean and everything does just what it's supposed to, especially Keldo and Mudora being included. It's just amazing discard for your furniture cards. And also they do seem like a better addition because they are sort of substituting another Arias as well as the Ice Dragon's Prison. So both of them seem to be doing more than what those two other cards would be doing in this deck, and they're just nice against so many strategies. And as for everything else, this is sort of what Labyrinth is looking like right now, with all of the furnitures as well as 3 of every single welcome card, because you want your Arias to actually have targets. So yeah, I think this is looking insanely clean. I like the addition of Phantasme in the side deck as well. It's just amazing against Unchained and the likes. And yeah, you know, Eradicator is also still here. There's no full force virus, but Eradicator just does so much. So yeah, the rest of the extra deck and stuff is pretty standard. I really like Anima. People still play into it. And Clara and Rushka is just such a nice addition because of SP. So moving on to a couple of Fire King deck lists. I covered these in yesterday's video when I covered YCS Bologna, but we can take a look at those again if maybe some of you didn't see that yesterday because it was at the end of the video. So basically, going over these Fire King deck lists, both of them actually you're going to see play 2 Diabellestar because you want to have like your consistency, since already you are not playing Bonfire and the support because it's not out yet. There's 2 copies of Arvata. You can also play 3, and there's no Tinky, which I already assumed yesterday is because you don't want to play into draw even harder. So you want to like do want it in the draw phase, and then everything else is just like, you know, what you're searching is with Island as well as Ponix, but that's pretty much it. So you don't want to play into it more with a Tinky, and you're already only playing 2 Arvata, so you're not valuing that search that much, and you can get to Barong anyway. So yeah, I think you're fine with those ratios. There's Book of Eclipse in the side deck. I wanted to focus on this because you're actually going to see it in a couple of deck lists, and I haven't thought about it in some time, but it is a nice answer to most of the format actually. So I like the addition of Book of Eclipse here, and we're also going to see it in a Rescue Ace deck list. So this deck is just pretty much like standard Fire King, just Fire King. There's no Dogmatica, nothing else, because there's no support yet, but those deck lists are going to get much more interesting once the support drops. So we're very quickly going to go through this one as well. This one is playing Prosperity, which I think you have to include for consistency, and the other one does not play Prosperity but has more non-engine. And as for non-engine in this version, you have Super Polymerization, which is nice, you know, it's fine. Like you have your Nibiru in the side deck as well as draw. So for the most part, you are covered with your most generic cards. And then Super Poly is just here. And there's also the Reishardt and no other search cards. So there's no Tinky, nothing like that. And you also have your Spell Trap Negate, which is this one that's also pictured over here. So pretty much Arvata, but for spells and traps, which not every version is playing, and everything else is fairly standard, and there are obviously your super poly targets in the extra deck. So, okay, moving on to Vanquish Soul. This deck keeps on topping, but it just doesn't top that much or in big numbers. There's just a couple tops here and there, but you can see that if the pilot is good, you're probably gonna be able to top because the deck is still fairly solid. So yeah, it's pretty much just Vanquish Soul and your mandatory 3 off of the Durandal, as well as your Reishardt for other additions. And there's also non-engine in the form of Pancratops because of the Earth attribute and your other hand traps. So yeah, no other like additional engine, because I have seen Vanquish Soul being played with multiple different things, but this one is just very straight to the point. Vanquish Soul, non-engine, and that's pretty much it. The most interesting thing about this deck is actually the Gizmek Uka together with your barrier statue targets, which is kind of cool. Like, I have to say, I actually like this. And What attribute is Gizme Kuka? That's what I want to know, because maybe it's like also working, you know, attribute wise together with your cards. So I would have to check this. But yeah, there can only be one, obviously, the MVP of the Vanquish Soul deck. Moving on to Centurion. Now this deck is like, it's actually proving itself to be a very worthy contender. It's not just this, you know, cringe log that's like not achieved. It is actually consistently achieved through your 1-card combos, and that's what's making this deck really good. It has enough space to include an extra engine, and Horus cards are just amazing at providing bodies as well as going into zombie vampire. And I really, really love the removal effect of King's Sarcophagus. It's like, I don't know, it feels a little overlooked. I think the effect is actually really cool to deal with some problematic cards. And you also have talents, a couple hand traps. We see Nibiru over here, there's impermanence, there's Fenrir, but the rest is just engine, and obviously your combo to go into the Calamity. You can also just end on your level 12 Synchro and just chill pretty much, or like bring out the Blazer Dragon if you feel like doing that. It's not usually ending on boards that seem very threatening, but they do a lot during your turn. So we may want to consider like citing more copies of Cosmic Cyclone if this deck actually becomes even more popular. There's a couple really broken field spells in the game right now, actually, in multiple different decks. So obviously Tyr comes in many different forms, but for this one, the most interesting thing would be, there's a couple, actually. They are still including King of the Swamp with Polymerization, Rulkalos over here, and Guardian Chimera. And they're also main decking the Impulse Fire Attacker engine. So this is seeing play in different decks, actually. For the most part, I've seen this in Tyr, either in the main. This is the first, though, but yeah, it's usually in the side deck. And it's just such a neat addition. I really like the inclusion of both of these cards and the little combo that they have. And as for everything else, there's Dweller in the side deck, so you're still respecting all of the decks that lose to Dweller. And Phantasme, again, being sort of a recurring card in people's side decks is just so good right now. And obviously the Scattershot, you gotta have it. This is just what it is. And Droplet, since your Ishizu cards and the rest actually works together with Droplet really well. The only thing that you don't want to be pitching is your tier names, obviously. Moving on to Rescue Ace, we have a fairly standard version. There's 2 Impulse. Now, I've been testing 3 and 1. I haven't tested 2 yet. I liked 1 more than 3, but to each their own. But speaking of 2-ofs, there's also 2 Diabellstar, so again, consistency, and you just want to have an additional copy. Like, you just don't want to find yourself in a situation where you don't have access to Diabellstar because of, you know, anything like a Bishio or something, so you cannot put it back with original Sinful Spoils. So you actually get to an additional fire on the following turn. It just becomes really weird if somehow your Diabellstar is not where it's supposed to be, and you kind of circumvent that by having 2 copies. And also immediately when you draw this, and also maybe a Wanted is gonna be dead completely, which it's fine. You can just pitch it with Diabellstar and you have the draw, so you at least have something. But I don't know, it's like, playing 2 seems like a good idea. I have not tested this yet. I've only been playing with 1, but 2, yeah, you know, 2 seems fine. And here we have the Eclipse that I already talked about before, which seems like a nice going second card, actually. And there's 3 copies of Prosperity. I have seen people play 2. There's obviously your Rescue Ace cards. I think Headquarters is just such an insane card. It is really, really, really strong. And as for the side deck, Bishios, which you just kind of have to have in many matchups, there is Ghost Bell. It's kind of weird. Your Labyrinth matchup is not ideal because your trap cards don't really hurt it, and you're going to find yourself in a grind. So I assume Ghost Bell is mainly here because you really want to have an advantage in that matchup. And yeah, you know, Cosmic Cyclone as opposed to playing Lightning Storm, respecting the decks with the powerful field spells, and the rest is fairly standard. So, okay, another Ishizu list, Tier Ishizu, which I talked about before. There's many different shapes and forms in which Tier can be played. This one is with hero cards, card destruction as well, and the danger cards. So you can play it however you like. And there's also obviously the little engine I talked about before. 1 Fenrir to complement the 2. No, there's no 2 in the main deck. Okay, just 1 Fenrir. Okay, it's here. And you obviously also have Phantasme and the rest. And the extra deck does not feature Rulkalos since there is no King of the Swamp. This one does have King of the Swamp though. And this is the same I don't think it's the same list, but very similar to what we saw before. This one does have Baguska in the side deck, so this is not the same list, and Ras Firmot as well as XYZ Encore. And this is going to be the last deck for today. I wanted to cover another Labyrinth build because this one plays Unchained actually, and I haven't personally tested this version yet, but it does look really cool because you actually have stuff to play with if your Labyrinth cards get disrupted, and you can actually bridge to the entire Unchained side of things. It's just a little weird because you only play one copy of each. So drawing Escape just feels really bad if you don't have ways of utilizing it. And also, like, your stuff already does a lot. So I'm not certain how badly you need your Unchained things as well. But again, if you do get disrupted, it's just so nice to go into Yama. And also the tag out effect is really nice because you're able to play around targeting negation on your Ariana. Because if they're going to negate anything, they're going to negate Ariana. You can just tag it out, which is cool. I have found myself in situations where I played against this deck and it just feels so bad when you don't know they're on the Unchained version. So yeah. And also Kildo and Mudora here in the side deck. So they are still fighting their way into the Labyrinth deck. And also DDG for tier and stuff like that, I think is a really cool addition. People really stopped playing IDP, or they don't play it as frequently, so they can substitute it with the likes of DDG, and also I guess the barrier has always been here. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, yeah, this one plays Prosperity as well. Like, you don't necessarily need to, but it is okay to play it. Since over here it's kind of weird because with Extravagance you really don't want to risk banishing some of your Unchained cards, but you do play 3 of the most important ones, so there's that. You are, however, playing less Muckracker, which feels a little bad, but you don't have enough space. So this is, like, I guess one of the downsides to this deck, where you just cannot afford to play a 3rd copy of Chaos Angel, 2nd copy of SP, 3rd Sky Crisis, and all of that. So yeah, you can decide for yourself whatever you want to do and what you want to play. And with that, we're going to end today's video. If you enjoy me doing these post-event deck lists, meta deck lists type videos, let me know, like the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.